So Josh, with that hair jig, what size are you looking for? And then what's the technique involved with the hair jig?
Yeah, we're talking marabou
Yes,
jigs,
sir.
like for smallmouth, right? Yep.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm using a fighter fly. Seth Fighter taught me that years ago. That's his little deal. He was taught by the Canadians, how to make it. Have some of his Canadian buddies up there, and then we took it in Minnesota, and I was always into tying, so I got pretty good at tying. That one to me is perfect. It has, now they're made. Outcast Tackle makes them, so that's the one that I use every year. Every spring, I still sit down and time myself up a couple just to say that I did it. But the production ones are just as good. The key to hair is there's two things, and I actually just did a video for this. There's two reasons why you want hair. One, because it's cold water. Metal, when all else fails, when soft plastic, way back in the day, it was metal and it was hair is what people used to go bass fishing. Then soft plastics and jigs and stuff like that started to come along, and they work definitely better most times of the year. But when it's super cold, sometimes hair and metal will still get those bites. So right away when the ice comes out, I like to throw a hair jig. And a lot of the reasons why is because when the ice breaks, you're gonna have those fish. First of all, those fish are like Pat saying, they're getting to 15 foot and shallower, and that's where I want to target a smallmouth to. And the pre-spawn is definitely 5 to 15 feet, somewhere in that. 8 to 12 is like really good. That's really good for a hair jig, because again, those fish can see amazingly well. So that thing's wet. It's like this small,
Mm-hmm.
in the water column. I think a lot of people originally think we're fishing it on the bottom, and that's not necessarily the case. And that's the key, because the rocks, when the ice goes out, grows like a weird mold, or not a
Mm-hmm.
mold, like a
Moss.
algae on top. Yeah, and you can't fish it. You can't throw a Ned rig on it; it'll just get full of stuff. So, but you still got to. At the same time, I can't be reeling something too fast. They're not in the mood. Like he was saying, you got to have the right cadence for the right time of year. They're not going to kick their tail too far to chase something down. So I need something that's going to just kind of float through the water real slow, stay just off the bottom, and not get fouled up. And the hair jig gets that. Secondly, when they go to post spawn, it's a good bait too during the spawn. Like I said, to peg fish off, just flinging around at light spots, at rocks, stuff like that. When the females are moving up and they're in their little packs, a great bait to get them. And generally, you always have to have clear water. I've never seen it work in any kind of too dirty or stained water. It's always got to be really clean. So the second thing is going to be reverse, is the mayfly hatch when after the spawn. A lot of times on these lakes up north, we're going to have a mayfly hatch, which is more so around the end of June, 4th of July for us up north. And you wouldn't believe that a smallmouth that eats crawdads every single day of its life, and then those little mayflies, they start hatching from the bottom, they float up, and they just gorge themselves on them.
Yep.
And it's always the big ones. The small ones don't even really know yet. They're still eating crawdads and stuff. It's the big ones that have great eyesight that know that they can eat up. So I'll either catch them. You can either watch them come up and eat like the casings off the top, and you can target them that way, or you just I like to get in that 12-foot range and keep my hair jig at roughly around 6 foot post spawn, and just move around those same breaks that Pat was talking about, where they want to pull up. They're going to use those same ways to move back out. And that hair jig will definitely get the bites. And the other reason I like it is I would just won't never lose them. Like they kill it, they eat it. And the biggest key is like a 7/6 medium light action rod,
Mm.
and the lightest braid you can find. So like I use 8 pound is usually what I use, 8 pound Power Pro, and a little bit shorter leader, like an 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. But you don't want it too long, because you want to be able to really whip that little hair jig as far as you can. And that's the key, because everything's so clean, the water's so clean, you got to make super big casts with that little tiny hair jig. And but yeah, definitely once 4th of July comes, for most everywhere, I think the hair jig kind of that bite dies.